Hello, everyone. Let me just confirm that I am live. Looks like I am. Give me some live signals. Is anyone here? Can you send me a comment? Where are you joining from? What's your time zone? How's it going? What time of the day is it? Today is 10:27 for me a.m. So we start in 3 minutes. And as you have guessed it from the title, MuleSoft Ambassador Jitendra Bafna is going to be joining today. So that's exciting. Is anyone there? Let me just confirm that I am live on LinkedIn. And hey, woohoo! Okay, I'm getting the people. Hi, Tiago. Nice to see you here. Awesome. Hi. Where are you joining from? So many people. Oh my gosh. Okay. Okay, hold on. I lost. Okay. It was you and then hi and then Marco. Hey Marco. Pavan. Hey from India. Cool. Hi. Hi again. Hi. Hi. Oh, so many messages. Oh my god. You guys are awesome. Thank you. Thank you for joining. Oh, from Spain, 4:27 p.m. Cool. You can hear me. Morning, Michael. Hi, Jose from Spain as well. Cool. Jersey, EST, so same as me. We start in 1 minute. Hi, India, more India. Awesome. It's almost 8 p.m. Cool. Hi, Raul. All right, I think those were all the messages. Awesome. So, starting in 1 minute, and as you have guessed it from the title again, we will be here with MuleSoft Ambassador Jitendra Bafna, and many of you might know him already because he has like all of the content everywhere of all of it. Anoop from India. Hi, Anoop. Michael from Ethiopia. Is that how you pronounce it? Ethiopia. Well, great. Thank you for joining. Ashish from India. Awesome. So it's 10:30. I am going to go ahead and add Jackie. Hey,
Hi Alex. Hi everyone.
how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you. How are you?
I'm good. So, how do you feel that so many people came to see you today?
Yeah, I'm feeling excited to give this session on the Flex Gateway. I'm very excited about that.
Awesome. I hear that you are one of the experts in the community.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Have you been experimenting with it a lot?
Yeah,
Yeah, a lot. Okay. Sweet. All right. So, is there any plan where you're gonna show us today?
yeah. Basically, I will going to showcase like how to set up a Flex Gateway on the Docker container, then how we can expose a multiple APIs like that is written in MuleSoft as well as non-MuleSoft, and how we can do the like how we can expose the multiple ports on Docker basically. So I will going to explain all this thing in today's session.
All right. Awesome. So, you want to get started and share your screen?
Yeah, definitely. So let me share my screen. Once you can see my screen, just let me know. Yeah, I've shared my screen.
Awesome. We can see it.
Yeah. So should I start it?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. So guys, before I start with the actual demonstration, I will give some background about the Flex Gateway. So recently, like MuleSoft has introduced API like Flex Gateway, and that is the Envoy base. And Envoy is nothing; it's a CNCF project, and generally it is like it is mentioned that C like Envoy is the one of the faster, super fast, or we can call it high performance on low latency service. So Flex Gateway is basically, it's a very flexible gateway, like that you can install anywhere. Basically, you can install on virtual machines, you can install on Docker, you can install on Kubernetes basically. And apart from that, like you can manage, secure, engage, or discover any kind of API. Doesn't matter like in which technology you have written your APIs. Basically, it can be Spring Boot, it can be MuleSoft, it can be any other technology. Apart from that, like it doesn't matter where is your API located and what kind of transaction loads coming on your API basically, right? So it's a basically a technology agnostic gateway basically, like doesn't matter what kind of API is there, right? And also, like when you are setting up the Flex Gateway, you can set up a Flex Gateway in three different ways. So either you can set up a Flex Gateway as a Linux service, you can set up Flex Gateway as a Kubernetes ingress controller, or even you can set up a Flex Gateway as a Docker container. And when you are setting up the Flex Gateway, you can use the three authentication mode. The first authentication mode is like a connected app, or you can always use any point username or password. Or the third approach, you can use the auth token basically. So these are the few like initial information about the Flex Gateway. And in demonstration, we will show much more things, like how we can set up the Flex Gateway and how we can manage the API. Apart from that, I want to add one more thing, like Flex Gateway support any kind of architecture. Like it can be microservices, like it can be monolith architecture, or it can be anything like API led connectivity, whatever. Like you can enable the Flex Gateway on any kind of API basically. Okay, so let me start with a demonstration. So what I will going to show you today. So basically I have few API which is running in the Docker container. So one is the order API which is running in my Docker order container Docker. I have an employee API which is running in the employee container. This both are the MuleSoft API, and I have registered both the container in my Anypoint platform basically. If you see, the employee container has been registered in my Anypoint platform, and my order container is also registered in the Anypoint platform. So here I am using the hybrid approach basically. And I have a third API which is the Node.js API, and we will going to use one of the public API basically, that is like accessible over the internet, right? So let me show that. So I have this particular four APIs basically. So this particular API is running on the Docker container on port 9000, and that is the employee API. I have another API, orders API, that is running on port 9002. Then health API that is running on 9003 in the Docker container. And then there's a one world time zone API. Like this particular APIs are open, no authentication. Like this API is currently not managed by any gateways, or so my organization come up with some approach, like they have n number of API written in different technology, and they want to manage that API using a single platform, from the single pane of glass, where they can go and see like stats, analytics, they can apply any policies like from the single place basically. So where the Flex Gateway comes very handy basically. So let me start setting up the Flex Gateway. So first thing, like you need to have a Anypoint platform account. So like you can get the Flex Gateway in the 30 days free trial also. So you can just create the account and you can start practicing the setting up the Flex Gateway. So once you log in into Anypoint platform, you have to go to the runtime manager, you have to select the proper environment where you want to set up your Flex Gateway, and then finally you can click on this particular Flex Gateway. Then here you can see one blue button here, like you can click on this blue button, add gateway. Then we have a three options. Either you can set up on Linux service. So currently Linux doesn't support RHEL, it support Ubuntu, and there's a one more like Debian Linux operating system. Then we have a Docker, then we have a Kubernetes. In today's session we will going to use the Docker. The first thing, you have to pull your Docker image of Flex Gateway, basically. So before you setting up the Flex Gateway on the Docker, you require a Docker engine running on your machine, or it can be a Docker desktop also. Whatever you have, you can do that. So let me copy this command and let me run on my command prompt. So this will going to pull a image, Docker this Flex Gateway image basically. In my case, I have already pulled it, so it doesn't took much time. So here you can see in my Docker desktop, I already have an image with 1.1.0, right? So next thing, we will go and we will check. We have to register your gateway. So generally, you can set up a Flex Gateway in two mode. One is connected and other is the local. In connected mode, like basically like you can manage your flex gateway from any point platform. Like you can apply any out of box policies. You can like use the out of box any point monitoring. You can use the API manager telemetry in the metrics, right? And other thing, like you can also set up in the local mode, so where like you have to manage your flex gateway using your like YAML descriptor files. And like you may have to use the third party logging system or third party monitoring, and the API will all the Flex gateway will also not get registered in your anypoint platform. Okay, but in this case, we will going to use the Flex gateway in the connected mode. You can see there's a one attribute which is saying dash dash connected equals to true. Let me copy this command first on my notepad. Okay, I will copy somewhere here. Let me copy it again. Okay. So here what I require, so PWT, currently I'm using a Windows, right? So I will provide a full path. PWT doesn't works on Windows. It works on like if you are running the command on Linux operating system, or it will work. But here like I'm using like Windows. So I have to change this path. I have created one folder. So PWT means it's a current path basically, okay, in Linux. So I will just change this. I will change this path. Apart from C, you just have to give a gateway name. So I will use some mule uh, demo GW. You can give any name, and it's a Windows. I have to bring everything into the single line. Like slash doesn't work in Windows, so let me bring everything into the single line. Let me remove all these slashes at the end. So I'm registering my Flex gateway. I bring everything into the single line. Do one thing. Okay, I will copy this command. I will go to my command prompt and I will simply run it. So it start registering. Okay, so let's wait. It take like 30 to 40 seconds. It should not take much more time.
I
So
didn't
let me,
know that the command was different for Windows.
yeah, it's a bit different. What happened? Registration complete. Okay, that's fine. So you can see the registration file is there basically. Yeah, in Windows basically like it doesn't slash doesn't work, and like PWD, like it's PWD is something like it works on Linux but it doesn't works on Windows. PW means it's a current path where I want to create this registration file. So here you can see we have a registration file. So it contain like all the information which can communicate with your anypoint platform, and it contains some certificate that can be used for authentication with your like with any point platform. So it contains a lot of information basically. So basically like let's consider like in case you are setting up this Flex gateway in your organization, so by default firewall rules will be not open, right? So on MuleSoft documentation, if you go to Flex gateway, they have given some certain set of URLs. Those URLs and port numbers needs to be open from your organization servers, so it can communicate with your anypoint platform. Okay, so I have created registration YAML file, and let me check my anypoint platform if everything is good. So I can see this particular Flex gateway has been registered in my anypoint platform. So let me go back to my commands. The third command, I want to start a Flex gateway, right? So I can copy this command and simply I can go back to my notepad. So here again, I have to change this PWD path. So here I have to tell where is my registration file located. So I have to give that particular path here. So again, I mentioned PWD doesn't works in Windows. So here I'm saying port 8081. So my Flex gateway will get a request on port 8081, and it will transfer the request to the application running on 8081. Like 8081, why we give two port? This is the inbound port and this is the outbound port basically, where like my request will come on 8081 and request like the request will forward it to the 8081 basically. Okay, so let me bring everything to one line, and I will show like how to open expose the multiple ports from here basically. So basically when we will publish a multiple API, each API has to be deployed on or published on different port, and then how we can support multiple ports, I will going to show that also. So let me copy this command and quickly run this. So if everything is okay, you will see the Flex gateway will up in the connected mode, and it will create one replica. You can definitely create n number of replica. So mostly the replica is for load balancing purpose, scaling purpose, and it will give the, it will distribute the request traffic among the multiple replicas basically. In case if one of the replica goes down, the other replica will, take care of the request. So my Flex gateway is successfully registered. We are able to successfully, set up a Flex gateway in connected mode on, like, in connected mode basically. So you can see like everything is there. If you go to your Docker, you will see one Flex gateway. So here you can see your replica here, or you can call this as a container where it is running on port 8081 basically, right? Now what next thing what we will do, I have one API, this employee API basically. So this employees API, it's running on port 9000. Okay, so let me go and run this. What output it generate? So it just generating the, employee ID 3223 first, like, it is just generating the JSON response, right? So now what I have to do, I want to enable the API management capability on this particular API. How can we do that? So here you can go to APIs tab, and here you can click add API. So what I'm doing, I'm trying to add, or you can simply say I'm trying to publish this particular employee API to this particular Flex gateway. Here you will see list of all the Flex gateway in your environment, and you can only select the Flex gateway which is status connected. If you see Flex gateway in the status disconnected, you will not able to select that. I will say mule demo JV gateway next. Here either you can select API from exchange. If you have a raml, if you have created raml definition or your open API specification, you can definitely select from here. I think I have created it, so let me select it. It's employee API. Okay, and I will show the other demo also without like how we can publish without open specification also. So let me go next. Here I have to provide the implementation URI. So what I will do, I will first find the IP of my, because when Docker want to communicate with your, like, machine or something like that, you need like, or when the container want to communicate with each other, right, we have to give a IP address. It doesn't work on the local host. So I will find the IP of my machine. So I can simply go to IP config, and this is my IP address. Copy this. Okay, instead of localhost, let me give paste this, and let me run this. Yeah, so here I'm getting the proper response here also. Let me run it on the other tab. I got this response. Let me copy this URL. I will not copy complete URL. I will just copy this, like, implementation URI. So here you have to provide the implementation URI. So you are saying where my implementation exists. So that particular implementation can have a n number of resources, right? But you don't like, that's why like you cannot provide the n number of or like URLs here, right? So instead of that, you can simply provide the implementation URI without resources, like, so here I providing, this is my implementation URI. You can go to advanced option. So if you see, when we are setting up and when we are like setting up the replicas, what we have done, my Flex gateway needs to be run on, my replica needs to be run on 8081, and it should transfer the traffic to the application which is running on 8081. So I will going to publish this particular API on Flex gateway on 8081, because my rules say like request come on 8081 and request should go to 8081. If I do 8082, if I do 8082, it will not able to transfer the request. If I want to do that, right, so I want to change the port here also. So I want to ensure that the both are similar. So I will just say next, and you can verify everything. If everything is good, save and deploy. So if here you will see, like, if you see the status is equals to active, everything is fine. Even I think you should see it here. So here we can see it already add the listener for this particular employee API. Right now we will try to access this employee API from port 8081 localhost 8081 and slash just employees. We have to pass just employees. We got the response from the Flex gateway, right? So here what happened, so let me open one notepad and let me explain you. So I have sent the request on the Flex Gateway. Flex Gateway will validate everything, and then it will take this implementation path from the configuration, right? We have given this as a implementation path, and it will add the resource path from there, from the actual request. So that is how the URL get formed within the Flex Gateway basically, right? So we have sent the request to the Flex Gateway, like localhost 8081. Then and from there the request has been transferred to the where it has been transferred. If you see, I have a container which is running here on 9000 port basically, right? So that is how this happened. Now let me apply one of the policies and let me validate whether policy works or not. I can go to add policy. I will apply simple policies. Just I want to ensure that whether policy is working or not. I can say admin. Let me open the node in Google Chrome. Let me check logs, processing deployment request. It is just doing something. Yeah, you can see the policy has been applied. Just say enter. Now it is prompting me to enter the username and the password. I can do that. And just say admin. I got a successful response, right? So now we can see like we are able to secure our APIs using this particular Flex Gateway, and we are able to manage the API. Apart from that, like if you go to settings, and you can see a lot of charts also, lot of key metrics, or you can call this as a telemetry. So here you can say how many requests came, so what is the total error, what is the average response time, if we have violated the policies. So those kind of metrics you can see. Apart from that, if you want to see more metrics, you can simply go to your monitoring. Okay, you can select the environment. So right now I have deployed on Sandbox, and you need to select API. Let me check, it's employee API. I think this is one. Yeah, and just say pick the instance, and I will say view. So here you can see a lot of things, so you can see request volume, failed request, total errors. So those kind of things you can easily see it here basically in this particular logs. Yeah, you can see a lot of logs here because I already execute this particular API multiple times. But you can see all those things. Like apart from that, if you want to see request wise, you can just click on request tab. Here it will show implementation URI and everything, those kind of things. So that is one thing. Now I will try to expose a second API which is running in other container, right? And that API is like running on 9002 port basically, right? So simply what I will do, I will copy the same URL, and only I will change the port number. Okay, so this is my order API. This is the place where my order API is running. Let me go back to my API manager. So I'm trying to publish a second API on the same Flex gateway. I will say add new API. I will select Flex gateway. I will select the gateway. Next. Okay. Then it's order API. I don't have order API schema or API specification. So simply I can do that. I can select create new API, order API. Then I can select the asset type, which is HTTP API. Okay. It's already exist. I can give one or two, something like that. Okay. So that's fine, and you can create new API, HTTP and HTTP. Just say next, and you can provide your implementation. This time I provide 9002 where my order API implementation exists. I go to advanced option. I say 8081. It should fail because it will say this 8081 port is already bind. It should give error somewhere. So let me check whether it's give error somewhere here. It should give. If you see, It's saying some error. The port 8081 is already in use because we are trying to deploy other application, or we are trying to publish the other API on the same container on the same port number which is already bind with my employee API, right? So this will definitely give the error. But right now my replica only support 8081 because when I configure my replica, right, it just support 8081, right? So when I try to deploy on 8082, it will not work. So I will tell you what we need to do. So right, let me try like to access the orders. Let's see what error it gives. So it's a local host. Just a minute. So I will tell you what needs to be done. Yeah, what happens? See, now order API. See, now employee API has been replaced by order. Now we are getting the error for employees, right? And we are getting the like successful response for order. So this will happen, right? So because what will happen, the like two application cannot bind with the same port number. Either like order will work or either employees will work basically, right? If you see for employee, it's saying no listener. How we can fix that? I will tell you. So don't worry. So let me go back to my that particular command. Before doing that, let me stop this particular replica. Let me stop this and let me remove from here. So let me remove it, right? That's fine. Okay, so what I will do here, I will expose the range of port. So I will say I want to expose from port 8081 to 8089. Here I can say 8089 basically, right? So I'm exposing like 9 ports here. So like request will come on 808, it will go to 8081, 8082 to 8082, like that. So I'm like requesting multiple ports. Let me check whether it works or not. Let me go back to my anypoint platform. Let me go to my runtime manager. Okay, so next thing we have to do one more thing. We have to go to upper API manager. Let me check Flex Gateway is up and running. Yeah, it's up and running. So let me go back to my API manager. Let me go to order API. Let me change the port. So I will deploy this particular API on port 8082. So there will be no conflict. Yeah, I cannot see any port error. So let me go one by one. So first I will try to so yeah, I got the employees. We have applied the policies on employee. Now let me do other. So local host 8082 slash orders. We got the orders response also, right? So big and for order it haven't prompt me for the username and password because I haven't applied any policy on my order API, right? So you can see that I haven't applied any policy. Now I will try to expose my third API like that only, so which is non MuleSoft API. So this is very important. So let me copy this URL again. It's running on the 9003, the third implementation. So let me copy this again. Yeah, this is my URL. I can go back to my anypoint platform. I can go to administration. I can say add API, add new API. Then this is the Flex Gateway. I can say create new API because I don't have any schema exist. I can say health node.js API. Then I can select HTTP type. I can say next. You can provide the implementation URI. So it's not 90, it's 9003. I think it's 9003. Okay. So if you see my health API is exist on 9003, and I can say next, save and deploy. I have done one mistake. I need to change the port number. Okay. So let me change port number to 8083. Save and deploy. Let me apply the policies also. So this way, like we will see, like we can apply the policies to the non-MuleSoft APIs also. I can say next. You can say admin. Admin. Okay, apply. Okay, so let me try http local host 8083/employees. Sorry, it's not employees. It will give like it's health admin. And I got the response for my health also, right? Now apart from that, like we can see like this for this API we can see a lot of metrics and everything. Let me refresh and pass few more requests. So here let me check out. Let's see we some kind of metrics and everything. Then also we will see one API which is on like internet, and I want to manage this particular API. So you can see this particular API. Let me copy this. Here you can see like data will come. It takes some time. Here I have this simple API, and what I will do, I will copy this particular URL, implementation URI. Then I can go back to my API administration, and I can just say add new API again. This is even like API which is like exposed publicly, and I want to secure this particular API. And let me check if I have something related to time zone. 4th August. Yeah. Let me next. Here I will provide my implementation URI. I want to ensure that I change the port to 8084, right? And I can say next and save and deploy. And I will apply some kind of policy here also. Just say apply. Okay. So let me move back to my request localhost 8084 slash it should be time zone slash Asia slash it will prompt me for username and password. And signing, you got the response from your particular implementation. So we are able to secure the APIs, and like we can manage, we can discover your API. Like what happened, like if you go to your exchange also, and this is my like somewhere I've defined my time zone API here. And see like this is some API like not designed in written in MuleSoft. It implementation exists somewhere, but I can discover this particular API in my anypoint exchange also basically, right? And I can see all the specification for this particular API, right? How simple it was. Like with Flex Gateway, like you can manage, discover, engage, secure your API from anywhere. Apart from that, you can enable whatever out of box monitoring you want. You go to monitoring, you can check the monitoring also for this particular API. Let me search. Yeah, this is here. Select the instance and just view it. Yeah, you can see like number of requests and like how many requests and all this like request by response. So you can see some kind of matrices and everything here basically. Yeah. So any question? Like I think this is what I want to show about the Flex Gateway in the connected mode, Alex.
Yeah, I don't see any questions, but if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask. We still have 30 minutes though. Is there something else that you want to
Yeah,
show, maybe?
I can show in the local mode also how we can set up this thing in the local mode very quickly. It will not take more than 10-15 minutes. Is this okay?
Yeah, sure. And there, someone made a comment. Issue is we have to maintain so many ports for different APIs. It would be good if we can maintain the same port.
See, I will tell you some what's your name, some Champadas, right? So let consider like I have a n number of implementation, right? So I have a implementation 1, implementation 2, implementation 3. If I don't deploy my if I don't publish my API on different port, right, how Flex Gateway will come to know where I want to transfer the request, where I want to route the request, basically, right? So like you can do that, like you can ensure you can create a load balancer on the top of that. With that particular load balancer, like you can from load balancer you can just say that like these are the port you can transfer the request. That is possible. But we have to also ensure that like we have to define the rule in such a way that Flex Gateway should know where I want to transfer the request. Let consider if my request is coming on port 8081, I can transfer to the employee API. If my request coming on 8082, I can transfer to the 8082. I will show you like you can do that like in the local mode. It's possible. We can do that. Apart from that, like you can, it's all about Docker setting. It's not about the Flex Gateway. So like you can you can manage all this using the Docker. Like if you want to manage everything with a single port, you can do that. Like you need to ask your network team like how we have to manage the ports and all those things in the Docker, basically. Like that is what I will tell you right now. But like what I've seen, like we require a different port, basically, right? Otherwise, like how Flex Gateway will come to know where I want to route the request. Let consider I have a two application. That both application, one application is located in cloud, and one application is located in on premise. Both have a same resource path. Now how Flex Gateway will come to know I want to transfer the request to the cloud, or I want to transfer the request to the on premise, basically, where this port come into picture, basically.
Yeah, makes sense. We got a very cool. Nice.
Yeah, let me quickly set up the Flex Gateway in the sorry, in the local mode, and we will going to use the connected app for this, basically. And like we will get some experience of creating the connected app, and like what are the permission we need to give for setting up the Flex Gateway in the connected. Like see, we will not going to use the flex setting up the Flex Gateway in the connected mode. Basically we will create a connected app. So basically there is as I mentioned, like we can set up the Flex Gateway using the auth token. So right now when we have set up the Flex Gateway, it is using the auth token, basically. Like once we create a Flex Gateway from any point platform, it automatically generates the auth token for you. But there's other way you can set up the Flex Gateway using connected app also. In this particular demo we will going to do that. Okay, so let me quickly move to my anypoint platform. The first thing, I will go to access management, and I will first create one connected app.
Just quickly, someone is asking if it's possible to implement on the free account, and the answer is
Yes.
yes, you can. And then the other one, is there any limitation on setting the range of ports?
Yeah, there is a one limitation. Like you have to ensure that like whatever port you are setting up, those port are not already in use on your Docker by other applications. If let consider, if I try to create a Flex Gateway replica on 9000 port, but on my 9000 port all employee API is already running, it will not allow you to create a replica, basically. So that's a one of the limitation, basically, I can see.
Cool. Thank you.
And also like when you are basically I was working on like Kubernetes setup also, setting up the Flex Gateway, where also I face a similar challenge. Basically, like we have to deploy the application on multiple port every time. Then finally we came to know, if we are not doing that, then how Flex Gateway will come to know where I want to route the request, basically. We have to do that. Then you
Makes
can set
sense.
up then you can set up the load balancer, or you can set up the rule in the load balancer, so the port will be not transparent to actual consumer, basically. That you can take care of using the NGINX load balancer, or elastic load balancer, or application load balancer, that you can define there also. Yeah, if you don't, the port will be never visible to your end consumer. The what will be visible to your end consumer, that will be some domain, some host name, right? And you have to define some rules on that particular load balancer. Yeah.
Alrighty.
So let me quick Yeah. So let me go to connected apps. So here I will create one simple connected app, basically. So what I will do, I will create app, and here I will use the authorization code equals to client credential, and I need to give permission. So what kind of permission you have to give? Search for servers, read server, and manage server. Then I think we have to give a view environment and view organization, view environment and view organization. You can give that. just say next. And now you have to select in which business group. I will select EPAM. Then what environment? I will select sandbox. Then review it. Then add scope. Then save it. Yeah, I have to give a name. Test app. Just save it. Once you save it, it will generate a client ID and the client secret. Just keep as it is. So I let me take out the command from the documentation. Flex gateway MuleSoft. Okay. So I will show the documentation also. Like if you see on documentation, it given a lot of things on the MuleSoft documentation. Yeah, everything is available like step by step. So here like you can see the installing the flex gateway on like Linux service, Docker container, or Kubernetes ingress controller, right? So for now I'm saying like Docker container. So I think we have already downloaded the images and everything, so we don't have to do anything, right? So this we can skip this particular step because when we are setting up the flex gateway in connected mode, during that time we have already downloaded this image. Then we can go to register and run in the connected mode. So I will say with connected app. Okay, so I can go, and here is my command. I can copy this particular command. This command is bit complex as compared to previous one. So here like again we have to give this pwd path. So what I will do, I will change this because it will create two registration file. Let me remove this and copy this particular path, and I can change it. Then I have to provide a client ID. Which client ID? Which we have generated few minutes back. So this is my client ID. You can copy from here. You can just replace this with client ID. The next thing, you have to provide a client secret. You can go back here and you can just say copy client secret. You just change it. Now I want to find few environment information. So my environment ID, my organization ID, and I will remove this connected true equals, like I don't require this connected because I want to set up my flex gateway in the local mode. So I remove that connected equals to true. Then I have to find organization and output directory I slash regist, that's fine. Just you have to find environment ID where we can find the easiest way. Either you can go to environment and organization. There's other way also. You can go to API manager. You can go to information, and here you can see your environment ID. Copy this and just replace. Okay, and apart from that, organization ID you can find it from same place. So this is my organization ID. Copy this. See, even there might be question like we are using in the local mode, right? And then why we require this information? At least the MuleSoft will validate like the person who is using the Flex gateway, that is authenticated person, and like he have rights to create a Flex gateway. Even we are doing in the local mode, right? So I can say MuleSoft Flex. I'll just say local. Then I will bring everything in the one line. This is a bit painful, but that's fine. We have to do it. Otherwise, like you can use the git base on your Windows, then it should work without without doing this. You can use the git base. Then yeah, so I have done this, and let me copy this command. Yeah, control C, and let me do one thing. Let me close this. Let me close, so this there will be no conflict. Let me remove this also. Okay, that's fine. Let me run the CMD. Okay, so there is a one problem. So that's, let me control C it. Yeah, there's a one problem. We need to avoid this. Basically, like we have to pass the version also. This is something old command. So let me do that. So what we can do, flex gateway, and I can pass 1.1.0. Let me copy this command. Its registration completed. Oh, let me remove this. So I don't want to do with this particular command. I want have to change the name again because I already registered with this particular command flex gateway local. Okay, that's fine. I can change it here. Let me go to my runtime manager. So let's wait. Yeah, registration file has been created. Registration is completed. Let me check whether my flex gateway registered here. It should not. No, it haven't registered here, right? You can see that your flex gateway is not registered in my anypoint platform now, right? So we have done the first step. So rest of the steps are remain same basically. Like I can use this particular command only, like 8081. Here I will just use the single port, and like I will use the same command. Like just I have to change this path to Cuber because like my registration YAML file located on this particular place. Just run this. Let's see what happens. Let me check if everything is fine. Let me check a Docker container. Yeah, it's there. Let me delete some unwanted replicas. Okay. If you want other replica also, so you can simply like create other replica with other port. Copy this. I'm creating other replica. So there will be two replica. So you will see two replica here. So you can see like one replica running on 8081, one replica is running on 8082. So now we have done everything. We have set up the flex gateway and everything, like everything is good now. So now how we will going to expose the API? We don't have a API manager now. Our API, like our API is not, our flex gateway is not got registered in my anypoint platform. How can we do that? So there is something called a YAML descriptor file. So I will tell you, I already have a one YAML descriptor file. So let me show that. Okay, so this is my YAML descriptor file. In this particular thing, like you can have a single port basically here, right? So you can have something called like 8080, or here I mentioned 8081, right? While deploying the container, I mentioned 8081 basically. So you here you can have single port basically, right? And here like you can tell if, here you can define the path slash API slash employees basically, and what is where is your implementation exists. So let me find the implementation. I will say IP config. So I can say something like this. I will just change. So here I'm saying here you can also support wildcard, something like that. So if slash API is star, those kind of wildcard also supported. So if like if your implementation have multiple resources with after employees, there can be like curly bracket employee ID slash something, like you can define as a as a wildcard. Wildcard is supported here. And so here I'm adding the three implementation. So one is for my employees. So here I'm saying like this is all remain, the metadata remain common. And this is the address where is your container replica is listening. So you can give that. Then services like employee. So where is your employee implementation, and you can define your rules. Then order implementation, order rules, health implementation, health. Then you need to apply the policy. You have to mention here policy rep, uh, ref, and like what kind of policy you need to apply, and config username and the password. Just save this file, copy this, and go to folder, like then you can go to that flex gateway kubernetes, save it. Like once you save it, you should see some changes, like it will going to apply. It already added the listener basically. And let's see like whether it's work on http loop. Let me check if there's any run application running on 8081. Okay, 81 and 82, that's fine. So let me go back to localhost, and I'll just say 8081. Guys, just a minute. I have to give a full path. PPI slash employees. Yeah, you can see the response coming back from my. Let me use the other browser. it will prompt me for the username password, because like the on other browser it has been cached basically, that's why. So you can see the response from employee. Let me check orders. Got a response from orders, and let me check health. And you got a response from health also, right? So if you want to add a new API, you can simply do that, right? So you just have to keep on adding a new API in this particular YAML descriptor file. If you want to apply any policy, even you need to send the logs to any third party tool, you can define under this particular file basically. This is YAML descriptor file. Yeah, so that is how you can set up a flex gateway in the local mode and the connected mode using auth token and the connected app basically. Yeah, so that's all about flex gateway on Docker container basically. Any question?
Great. Yeah, there's a question. Any guidance when to use which mode, local or connected?
It's simple answer. You go with a connected mode basically, like because you can manage everything from the anypoint platform. You will have a more visibility, and you can apply any out of box all the out of box capability to your API when you set up in the connected mode. But like there are some customers, like they don't want even their metadata goes out of their system basically, right? So in that case you have to go with a local mode. It depend on like what kind of compliance your organization is following basically. So I've seen like some of the organization doesn't follow the cloud strategy, right? So in that case you have to set up the flex gateway in the local mode only. But most of the time I will recommend it to go with the connected mode. As you seen, like you can see everything on your anypoint platform, like you can like add the API from your anypoint platform. You can apply the policy from the anypoint platform, like you can see lot of metrics, anypoint monitoring, everything there, right? So we are getting a lot of advantage with the connected mode. So it doesn't mean like you cannot do local mode. You can do that. If there's a restriction, if there's any compliance issue with your organization or with your client, you can definitely go with the local mode. Only thing, you have to manage those YAML descriptor files manually.
Alrighty. I think it's also good for CI/CD, right? The local mode.
Correct. Even like for connected mode we can enable CI/CD, because like there is any point CLI, right? Like right now any point CLI is supporting setting up the flex gateway and managing, like setting up, like deploying the APIs to the flex gateway. So all it's available, like scripts are available. So we can integrate like flex gateway in connected mode as well as in local mode using the anypoint CLI to CI/CD.
That's true. Alrighty. I have a question. What authorization method do you think is better? Because I saw you did the connected app, but there's also like the token one that comes in the runtime manager. What do you think is best?
So see, I will tell you with auth token. What see with auth token also you have to generate the connected app basically for getting the client ID and the client secret, right? So what I have done basically for like for getting, see what I've done. I have set up a connected app in the client credential grant type basically. In client credential grant type, you don't have to generate the token. You can simply pass client ID and the client secret basically, right? But if you see, if you want, see auth token will be always much safer option. But only the thing is that for generating a token you require the extra steps. The first you have to like validate your client ID and the client secret, then it will generate like then generate the token, then you have to send that token in the request basically, right? So there is the extra steps. Like definitely auth token is always a safer or more secure option as compared to anything basically. With connected app using the client credential grant type, if somebody get your client ID and client secret, right? So they can like they can do anything basically, right? But with auth token, like we keep on generating the auth like every 30 minutes or 1 hour basically, right? So there is a less chance of like hack or something like that.
All right. There's another question. So there is no limit in total number of ports. Like we can define 1910 point ports.
Yes, you are, see it's for flex gateway, like doesn't matter like what port you are using, like doesn't matter. It's up to, it's depend on what kind of port or are allowed on your Docker basically. And like if you are using Kubernetes, what kind of ports are allowed and what kind of port restricted on your Docker or Kubernetes basically, right? For flex gateway you can mention 1000 also. It's fine, like flex, there is no issue. You can use 443 also, you can use 80 also. It doesn't matter. It's
Awesome.
up to your, it's up to your like setup, your infra setup, how your infra is set up, and what range of ports supported by your infra, and what port are not in use in your infra basically.
Makes sense. Are there any other questions? In the meantime, is there something else that you wanted to mention?
I think I think it's like Flex Gateway. It's a one of the like a great product, like because I will tell you, like I was working on one of the one of the setup for my customer basically, and they what they are doing like previously, like they are exposing the proxy basically for managing the non MuleSoft API. As you aware, like if you want to expose the proxy, you will be always requiring the Mule runtime basically, because proxy can be deployed on Mule runtime. Either let it be Cloud Hub, or let it be Runtime Fabric Manager, or let it be customer hosted, right? So every time we will definitely require the Mule runtime. But with Flex Gateway, you don't require, always don't require the Mule runtime, right? Even you don't have a MuleSoft API, you have some XYZ like API basically, maybe written in .NET or Java or anything, and the customer just want to manage those API, right? They can simply buy a Flex Gateway. They don't have to buy all like a Mule runtime and all those things, so that is one of the advantage I can see with a Flex Gateway basically.
Yeah. And you already tried in Linux and Kubernetes and everything, right?
Yeah, I have tried in Kubernetes, and I have tried in Elastic Kubernetes Service also, EKS. So basically, and apart from that, I all tried in the Docker also. Yeah, I have to try it on Linux. Linux I haven't tried yet. But on Docker, EKS, Runtime Fabric, Minikube, I have tried that. It's working fine.
Nice. And then Shampa says, best is you can manage any kind of API. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. Also, like one thing what I have observed basically. So let's consider you have set up your Flex Gateway. The Flex Gateway is generally set up in your organization, in your environment, right? And like if you want to manage the API that located somewhere in your data center, the people think like like when people try to implement that kind of thing basically in their environment, they generally face issue like the API is not connecting from the Flex Gateway, the API which you have to manage, right? That is not connecting from the Flex Gateway. So what can be the reason behind it? Because make sure, so where you are installing your Flex Gateway, right, the firewall is open for your API implementation. Like between the API implementation and Flex Gateway, the firewall rules and everything is open basically. Otherwise you will not able to connect like communicate with your implementation.
Okay. How much Kubernetes or Docker knowledge do you need to have in order to implement Flex Gateway?
Okay, so I will tell you. So you don't require. See, mostly I will tell you. He will definitely require when you are setting at an organization level, right? You definitely require the networking knowledge, basically. Just only. It's not only about setting up a Flex Gateway, right? After that, like you need to set up the ingress load balancers and all those things, right? Yeah, there's a 4 5 command. Like if your network is everything is open on your network, right? Then it just run the 5 command. You will able to do that Flex Gateway. But my experience here, we will definitely when we are setting up the Flex Gateway on Kubernetes or Docker, we will definitely require the expertise from the Kubernetes team and the Docker team also, or I will say from the infra team, because we need to open a lot of firewalls, and we need to disable or enable a lot of security aspects within the environment basically.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's not as easy as just run the commands and that's it.
Yeah, yeah, because like it's all like you take the example of anything, like you take the example of Mule runtime. If we are setting up Mule runtime, right, it's just not setting up Mule runtime. We need to open a lot of firewalls here and there basically. Like if somebody have set up their environment on the AWS, they may have to open the security groups or security list, and they may have to enable the access control list and ACLs, and like they have to add some rules in route tables. Those kind of things needs to be done. So for that I think there it like it is like when we are setting up the Flex Gateway, like it is a mix of infra team plus Kubernetes or Docker team and plus MuleSoft team basically.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So also in Linux, like as a Linux service, you also need another team.
Not that much of, like for Linux you can do it, like Linux just operating system, and you just have to ensure that like MuleSoft has documented like a few firewall rules that needs to be open from your Linux, and you can just quickly run that. Like for Linux I don't think we require that much of support, but for Kubernetes I'm 100% sure we will definitely require a support.
Right. And then I've been hearing a lot about the difference between using Kubernetes pods and Kubernetes ingress controller. What would you say is the main difference?
See, basically at the end, like pod is nothing, it's a replica, right? So basic ingress is just the entry point for your, like, if somebody have to enter, right? Basically, right? So they will enter via ingress, right? The finally then, like, there can be multiple. So ingress is, it's nothing, it's a listener for your pod, basically, right? It's a kind of listener. So basically request will come to ingress, and ingress will redirect the request to any of the available pod, basically. So generally,
Mm.
like, you can create multiple pods, basically, like, for scaling high availability purpose, basically. So ingress, like ingress is nothing, it's an entry point for your API, basically, or entry point for your flex gateway request.
Okay. There's another question. Is Flex Gateway a substitute for API Manager? We are deploying our APIs on dedicated AWS instance. How can we use Flex Gateway to maximum potential?
Yeah, like I will not say it's not a substitute for the API manager. I will say rather I will say Flex Gateway is a part of your API manager, basically, right? It's a, like, basically, like, if you want to manage your API, see Flex Gateway basically what capability they are giving, right? So basically, like, you can publish your API to the Flex Gateway. Flex Gateway can be entry point for your API. But if you want to manage your API, if you want to secure your API, if you want to apply your API, right? He will be definitely required the API manager. Without API manager, you cannot, you cannot secure, or like you cannot apply any policies on your API. You will definitely require your API manager, right? The Flex Gateway will be just the entry point, right? Once the entry point for your API, and finally you require to manage you require API manager for managing your API. It's not a substitute, basically. And generally I will suggest, like you mentioned, like how can we use the Flex Gateway to maximize. If you have a MuleSoft API, basically, right, and that's are running on the cloud hub, then you can leverage the existing Mule API gateway, and like or even you have a API running on runtime fabric manager or customer, you can leverage the existing Mule API gateway. But in your organization you have a APIs, like those can be legacy technology. Your API in, like, some legacy technology, or some like Spring Boot or Apache Camel, or any other XYZ technology, and plus MuleSoft. In that case, you can go with a Flex Gateway, simply, like, so you can manage everything, like you can manage, secure, or govern, or engage API from the single pane of glass, basically. You don't have to, you don't have to manage a multiple gateways, basically. You can say manage simple single gateway to manage everything. But it's not a replacement of your API manager. Okay, so it's a Flex Gateway, I feel it's a part of your API manager.
Yeah. And then any license cost involved for the hybrid model?
Definitely, like license cost will be there. Like what I heard, like it's you can go on the, like, licensing page, they have updated the license on there. I think it's on the consumption base, basically, like it's how many APIs you are deploying to a Flex Gateway, basically. So I think license is on the consumption basis, basically.
Yeah.
License cost will be there, definitely, like, and it will be on consumption base, like how many
Yes.
API are deploying on your Flex Gateway, depending on that.
And also a number of requests or just a number of gateways?
I heard, like it's a consumption based number of APIs, basically, I think, like
Okay, cool. Yeah, so we're out of time now. Thank you so much, Jitendra, for
thank,
joining and showing us all of those beautiful things.
thanks Alex for inviting me, like, for this session. Yeah, thank you so much. And thanks
Yeah.
everyone for listening me, for 1 hour.
It's always great to have you. You have a lot of knowledge.
thanks,
So,
thanks.
friendly reminders, follow us on our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/MuleSoft Community, or you can follow us on LinkedIn, MuleSoft Community, and Twitter at MuleDev. So, remember that we are here every week. Sometimes I have visitors, sometimes I'm on my own, but I really appreciate all of you joining with me, even if I'm on my own. So thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Diane. Thank you. See you
Thank you.
all. Bye.
Bye.